Memoirs of the Secret Services of John Macky, Esquire, during the reigns of King William, Queen Anne, and King George I, published from his original manuscript, as attested by his son Spring Macky, Esquire, 1733. 1. Mr. Boyle Macky explicitly describes Boyle as dark complexion. He is of middle stature, inclining to fat, dark complexion, wears his own hair. This is a clear complexion marker. 2. Sir Charles Hedges, Secretary of State, another noble clearly identified as dark, is a handsome man of a dark complexion turned of 45 years. This is especially significant because he was a Secretary of State, a major position. 3. Stafford Fairborn, Vice Admiral. This is one of the strongest examples because Macky uses the word swarthy plainly, is fat, swarthy, of a complexion, towards 50 years old. Swarthy, in 18th century English, meant dark brown-skinned, not tanned. This is a high-ranking naval officer, son of a governor of Tangier. 4. The Duke, unidentified in snippet, coarse, dark complexion, another high-ranking figure, of a middle stature, inclining to fat, of a coarse, dark complexion. This is notable because coarse, dark complexion often implied a naturally darker, textured, or foreign appearance. 5. Unnamed noble, middle-statured brown man. This is one of the clearest complexion markers. He is a middle-statured brown man, turned of 60 years old. Brown man in 1733 is unambiguous. A man of brown skin, not merely tanned. 6. Abergavenny, gentleman of the bedchamber. Abergavenny, later the Earl of Abergavenny, is described as a little brown man, very lovely, 30 years old. This is another aristocrat clearly identified as brown-skinned. These citations prove directly from a primary 1733 document that multiple British nobles, including secretaries of state, admirals, and hereditary lords, were described as dark swarthy brown. These are not Victorian euphemisms or poetic flourishes. They are literal physical descriptions from a contemporary observer whose job required accuracy. This is exactly the type of material that contradicts later 19th and 20th century historical whitening. Now I leave you with a musical narrative that I produced based on this very source. You can obtain a free copy of this book directly from b1decoded.com. The link is in the description. And in light of this information, and many other sources like it that are now being brought to light, we must rethink everything. The reality is that countless historical figures, men of power, influence, and legacy, who we were taught were white, simply were not. These were dark, swarthy, brown, and even black complexioned leaders whose identities were later rewritten, repainted, or erased. And that means we must take the good with the bad in this respect, acknowledging all of it, even when it disrupts the comfortable narratives we grew up with. Only then can we begin to rebuild a truthful understanding of our shared past.
Listen closely to the words they left behind. In Memoirs of John Macky, the nobility are described not by titles alone, but by the colors of their faces, the fire in their eyes, the tones of their skin. Charles, Duke of Somerset, of a middle stature, well-shaped, a very black complexion. Daniel, Earl of Nottingham, a tall, thin, very black man like a Spaniard or Jew. Lord Bellevin, a rough, fat, black, noisy man, more like a bear than a lord. George, Duke of Northumberland, a tall black man, like his father the king. Mr. Methuen, a tall black man, in his complexion and manners much of a Spaniard.
Sir Stafford Fairborn, fat, swarthy, of a brown complexion.
These are not exaggerations. These are direct observations. The author cataloging a court filled with diversity centuries before the story was rewritten. Yet over time, these words were buried beneath layers of interpretation. Scholars softened them, editors skipped them, modern systems. Even the A's we use today explain them away. But here, in the record, they still speak.
Black, brown, swarthy, tawny. They tell of an England and a Scotland whose nobles look far different from the portraits we were shown. And that is why we read the sources ourselves, because the truth was never lost. It was simply described and ignored.
These are the voices in the record. And through projects like B1 Decoded, we let them speak again. Not reimagined, not corrected, but remembered.